A terrified 6-year-old boy stood barefoot on a gravel shoulder just outside Ashford, Montana, waving his tiny arms at a convoy of 17 motorcycles roaring down Highway 42 at dawn. His face was streaked with dirt and tears. His clothes were torn. And when the lead rider, a silver-haired veteran named Cole Thornton, pulled over and knelt beside him, the child said 5 words that would haunt him forever. "Please arrest my dad. Please." Cole had seen war. He'd carried wounded brothers through fire. He'd buried friends and made promises to the dead. But nothing, not Fallujah, not the burn pits, not the long nights after, had prepared him for the desperation in that little boy's eyes. The boy's name was Jamie. He was shaking. He refused to go back inside the house. And when Cole asked him why, Jamie whispered something so quiet that Cole had to lean closer to hear it. What the boy said made Cole's blood run cold, and within minutes he was on the phone with someone he hadn't spoken to in 12 years, a brother-in-arms who now worked for Child Protective Services. By noon, what started as a random roadside stop had become a full investigation. By sunset, 17 bikers had become a wall of protection around one small boy. And by the time the truth came out, the entire town of Ashford would be forced to confront a horror that had been hiding behind closed doors for years. This is the story of a promise made on gravel and kept with iron loyalty. It's the story of what happens when silent suffering meets unshakable resolve. And it's the story of how sometimes the family you choose is the only family that matters. The sun hadn't fully risen when Cole Thornton saw him, a small figure, barefoot, standing on the gravel shoulder of Highway 42, just outside Ashford, Montana, waving his arms like he was drowning on dry land. Cole's first instinct was to keep riding. 17 bikes behind him, a long day ahead, and they were already late for the Veterans Memorial Ride in Billings. But something in the way the boy moved made him brake hard. The convoy behind him followed suit, engines rumbling to idle, dust rising in the cold morning air. Cole pulled off his helmet and swung his leg over the bike. The boy couldn't have been older than 6. His face was dirty, streaked with tears. His t-shirt was torn at the collar. No shoes, no jacket. Just a kid standing on the side of a highway at dawn, like he'd been running from something. If this story already has you hooked, drop a comment below and let me know where you're watching from. Cole knelt on the gravel, eye level with the boy. "Hey, buddy, you okay?" The boy shook his head. His lips trembled. "What's your name?" "Jamie." "Jamie, where are your parents?" The boy pointed down the road toward a narrow dirt path that disappeared into the trees. "My dad's in there." "And your mom?" Jamie's face crumpled. "She's gone." Cole glanced back at the other riders. A few had dismounted, watching quietly. One of them, a broad-shouldered man named Ray, with a gray beard and a purple heart tattooed on his forearm, stepped closer. "Kid in trouble?" Ray asked. "Don't know yet." Cole turned back to Jamie. "Why are you out here alone, son?" Jamie's voice dropped to a whisper. "I ran away. From your dad." The boy nodded. "Why?" Jamie's eyes filled with tears again. He looked down at his bare feet, then back up at Cole, and then, in a voice so small it was almost swallowed by the wind, he said it. "Please, arrest my dad. Please." Cole felt something cold settle in his chest. He'd been a Marine. He'd seen the worst of what people could do to each other. But hearing those words come out of a 6-year-old's mouth hit differently. He kept his voice calm. "Jamie, I'm not a cop, but I can call one. Can you tell me why you want me to do that?" Jamie hesitated. Then he lifted his shirt. Cole's jaw tightened. Bruises, dark purple and yellow, scattered across the boy's ribs and stomach like a map of pain. Some were fresh, some were fading. And there, along his side, were marks that looked like they'd been made by something hard and narrow. A belt, maybe, or worse. Ray cursed under his breath. Cole kept his voice steady. "Jamie, did your dad do this?" The boy nodded. "When?" "Last night. And the night before. And—" His voice broke. "He does it a lot." Cole stood slowly, his mind already moving through the steps. He pulled his phone from his jacket and walked a few paces away, dialing a number he hadn't called in over a decade. It rang 3 times before a gravelly voice answered. "Thornton, that you?" "Yeah, Marcus, it's me." Marcus Hayes had been Cole's platoon sergeant in Iraq. Now he worked for Montana Child Protective Services. They hadn't spoken since Marcus left the military in 2013, but Cole knew he was the right person to call. "I've got a situation," Cole said. "6-year-old boy says his dad's been beating him. I've got visible injuries. He's scared to go home." There was a pause. Then Marcus said, "Where are you?" "Highway 42, just outside Ashford." "Stay with him. I'm 40 minutes out. Don't let him go back to that house." "Wasn't planning on it." Cole hung up and walked back to Jamie. The boy was sitting on the gravel now, knees pulled to his chest, watching the bikers with wide eyes. Ray had draped his leather jacket over the kid's shoulders. "You hungry?" Cole asked. Jamie nodded. One of the riders, a woman named Della with a long braid and a scar down her cheek, pulled a granola bar from her saddlebag and handed it to the boy. He ate it slowly, like he hadn't had food in a while. Cole sat down next to him. "My friend Marcus is coming. He helps kids who are in trouble. He's going to make sure you're safe, but I need you to tell me something, okay?" Jamie looked up at him. "Is anyone else in that house? Your dad? Is he alone?" Jamie shook his head. "My sister's in there." Cole's stomach dropped. "How old is she?" 4. Ray and Della exchanged a look. Cole stood and walked toward the dirt path Jamie had pointed to earlier. Through the trees, maybe 200 yards in, he could see the outline of a house. Small, paint peeling, a rusted pickup truck parked in front. He turned back to the group. "We've got another kid inside." Ray stepped forward. "What do you want to do?" Cole looked at Jamie, then back at the house. "We wait for Marcus, but if that little girl's in danger, I'm not waiting long." The convoy stood in silence, engines cooling, the morning light spilling over the mountains, and in that silence a promise was made, not spoken but understood. They weren't leaving until both kids were safe, no matter what it took. Marcus Hayes arrived in 38 minutes. He pulled up in a white sedan with state plates, stepped out, and walked straight to Cole. He looked older now, graying at the temples, lines around his eyes, but he still had that same steady presence Cole remembered from the desert. "Where's the boy?" Marcus asked. Cole nodded toward Jamie, who was sitting on Ray's motorcycle, still wrapped in Della's jacket. Marcus walked over and knelt in front of him. He spoke quietly, gently, asking questions Cole couldn't hear. Jamie answered in whispers, sometimes nodding, sometimes shaking his head. After a few minutes, Marcus stood and walked back to Cole. "He's telling the truth," Marcus said. "Bruises are consistent with repeated abuse. He says his father drinks heavily, gets violent when he's drunk. The mother left 6 months ago, no contact since. There's a younger sister still inside the house." 4 years old, Cole said. "Yeah. He says his dad locked her in the bedroom this morning after Jamie tried to run. That's when he made it to the road." Cole's hands curled into fists. "So what's the plan?" "I'm calling the sheriff. This is a welfare check now. If there's an immediate threat to the child inside, they'll go in." "How long will that take?" 20 minutes. Maybe less." Cole looked back at the house through the trees. 20 minutes felt like forever. He thought about the little girl locked in a bedroom, scared, maybe hurt. He thought about Jamie sitting on that gravel shoulder, begging strangers to arrest his father, and he thought about the promises he'd made a long time ago, to protect the ones who couldn't protect themselves. "I'm going to take a look," Cole said. Marcus grabbed his arm. "Don't. If you go in there and something happens, it complicates everything. Let the sheriff handle it." "I'm not going inside. I'm just going to make sure she's okay." Marcus hesitated, then let go. "Stay out of sight, and if he comes out, you back off. Understood?" Cole nodded. He motioned to Ray and Della. "Come with me. Rest of you stay here with Jamie." The 3 of them walked up the dirt path, boots crunching on gravel, the air thick with the smell of pine and old smoke. As they got closer, the house came into clearer view. It was small, 1-story, with a sagging porch and broken shutters. The pickup truck in the driveway had a dented fender and an empty gun rack in the back window. Cole moved quietly to the side of the house, staying low. Ray and Della followed. There were 2 windows facing the woods, one covered with a heavy curtain, the other cracked open slightly. Cole crept closer and peered through the crack. Inside, he could see a narrow hallway, dirty dishes piled in a sink, a couch with torn fabric, and at the far end of the hall, a closed door with a chair wedged under the handle. "That's gotta be the bedroom," Ray whispered. Cole heard something then, a small voice, crying. He moved to the window near the door and pressed his ear against the glass. The crying was coming from behind the locked door, a little girl's voice calling out softly. "Jamie! Jamie, where are you?" Cole's chest tightened. Then he heard something else. Footsteps, heavy, coming down the hall. A man appeared. Tall, unshaven, wearing a stained undershirt and jeans. He staggered slightly as he walked, drunk or hungover or both. He stopped in front of the locked door and kicked it once. "Shut up in there!" he shouted. The crying stopped. The man turned and walked back toward the kitchen, muttering to himself. Cole watched him grab a beer from the fridge, crack it open, and drain half of it in one pull. Della whispered, "We need to get her out." "Not yet," Cole said. "Sheriff's on the way." "What if he goes back in there?" Ray asked. "What if he hurts her?" Cole didn't answer. He just kept watching. The man finished his beer, crushed the can, and tossed it on the floor. Then he walked back to the locked door and stood there for a moment, his hand on the doorknob. Cole's pulse quickened. If that door opened, if the man went inside, Cole wasn't sure he'd be able to stop himself from going through the window. But the man didn't open the door. He just stood there, swaying slightly, then turned and walked back to the couch. He sat down, grabbed a remote, and turned on the TV. Cole exhaled slowly. "Let's go," he said. They made their way back down the path. Marcus was standing by his car, phone to his ear. When he saw Cole, he hung up. "Sheriff's 2 minutes out," Marcus said. "You see anything?" "Little girl's locked in a bedroom. Father's drunk. He's not touching her right now, but he's agitated." "If he goes back in there, he won't have time," Marcus said. A minute later, 2 sheriff's vehicles pulled up, lights flashing but no sirens. 4 deputies stepped out. Marcus briefed them quickly, pointing toward the house. The lead deputy, a short, barrel-chested man with a buzz cut, nodded and motioned to his team. "We'll handle it," he said. "You stay here." The deputies moved up the path, weapons drawn but held low. Cole, Marcus, and the bikers watched from the road. Jamie stood next to Ray, holding his hand. 3 minutes later they heard shouting, then the sound of something breaking, then silence. The deputies emerged from the house. One of them was carrying a little girl. She was crying, her face buried in his shoulder. Her hair was matted, her clothes dirty. She looked so small. Jamie ran toward them. "Emma! Emma!" The deputy set the girl down gently, and Jamie wrapped his arms around her. She clung to him, sobbing. Cole felt something crack open inside his chest. Marcus walked over to the kids and knelt beside them, speaking softly. After a moment, he stood and looked at Cole. "Father's in custody," Marcus said. "Both kids are safe." Cole nodded. He looked at Jamie and Emma, still holding each other, and he thought about all the roads he'd travelled, all the miles he'd ridden, all the ghosts he'd carried. And he thought about how sometimes the most important journey is the one you never planned to take. Ray put a hand on Cole's shoulder. "You did good, brother." Cole didn't say anything. He just watched the kids, and he made another promise. Silent, unbreakable. This wasn't over, not by a long shot. Marcus Hayes stood in the parking lot of the Ashford County Sheriff's Office, phone pressed to his ear, frustration etched across his face. It was just past noon, and the sun was high and merciless. Cole leaned against his bike nearby, arms crossed, listening. "I don't care what the protocol is," Marcus said into the phone. "These kids have nowhere to go. The father's being held on multiple counts of child endangerment and assault. The mother's been gone for 6 months with no contact. There's no immediate family within 200 miles. A pause. Marcus rubbed his eyes. "So what are you telling me? That they go into the system tonight? That they get split up and placed in different homes?" Another pause. "Yeah, I understand. I'll handle it." He hung up and looked at Cole. "Foster care. They're being placed tonight, separate homes." Cole straightened. "You're splitting them up. It's not me, it's the system. There's no single placement available right now that can take both kids on short notice. Jamie will go to a family in Billings. Emma will stay local with an emergency foster couple." "That's insane. They just went through hell. You're gonna rip them apart? Marcus's jaw tightened. You think I want this? I've been doing this job for 12 years, Cole. I've seen worse, a lot worse, but my hands are tied. There are procedures, forms, background checks. I can't just place kids wherever I want. Cole looked through the glass doors of the sheriff's office. Inside, Jamie and Emma were sitting together on a bench, holding hands. A female deputy sat with them, trying to get them to eat sandwiches. Emma's face was still streaked with tears. Jamie stared at nothing. There's got to be another option, Cole said. There isn't. Not unless you know someone who's state-certified and willing to take them both. Cole didn't answer. He was thinking. Ray walked over, Della beside him. The rest of the convoy had dispersed an hour ago, heading back to their lives, their jobs, their families. But Ray and Della had stayed. So had 3 others, a mechanic named Hank, a former paramedic named Sarah, and a quiet guy named Luis, who rarely spoke but always showed up when it mattered. What's the word? Ray asked. They're being split up, Cole said. Foster care. Different homes. That's bullshit, Della said. Yeah, it is. Ray looked at Cole. So what do we do? Cole turned to Marcus. How long do I have? For what? To figure something out. Marcus shook his head. Cole, you can't... How long? They'll be picked up by 6 tonight. That's 5 hours. Cole nodded. Then I've got 5 hours. He walked inside. Jamie looked up when he saw him. Cole pulled up a chair and sat across from the kids. Hey, buddy, Cole said gently. How you holding up? Jamie shrugged. Emma leaned against her brother, her thumb in her mouth. Listen, Cole said. Some people are going to come and take you somewhere safe tonight. Somewhere you can sleep and eat and not be scared. Jamie's eyes filled with tears. Are they taking Emma too? Yeah, they're taking both of you. To the same place? Cole hesitated. He didn't want to lie. I don't know yet, but I'm working on it, okay? Jamie nodded, but the fear didn't leave his face. Cole walked back outside. Marcus was leaning against his car, arms crossed. You got a plan? Marcus asked. Working on it. Cole pulled out his phone and scrolled through his contacts. He stopped at a name he hadn't called in years. Thomas Doc Callahan. Former army medic. Retired now, living on a ranch outside Ashford with his wife, a schoolteacher named Linda. They'd fostered kids before. Cole remembered hearing about it at a reunion a few years back. He dialed. It rang 4 times before a woman answered. Hello? Linda? This is Cole Thornton. I don't know if you remember me. Of course I remember you, Cole. You saved my husband's life in Kandahar. That was a long time ago. Not to me. What can I do for you? Cole explained the situation. The boy on the highway, the locked bedroom, the father in custody, the 2 kids about to be split into different foster homes. They need a place to stay, Cole said. Together, just for a while, until the system figures out something permanent. I know you and Doc used to foster. I know it's short notice, but these kids... We'll take them, Linda said without hesitation. Cole blinked. Just like that? Just like that. Doc's out fixing a fence right now, but I know what he'll say. Bring them here. You're state certified. We are. Current and active. Give me the caseworker's number and I'll handle the paperwork. Cole gave her Marcus's information and hung up. He walked over to Marcus. I found a placement. Doc and Linda Callahan. They're certified. They'll take both kids. Marcus raised an eyebrow. The Callahans? Yeah, I know them. Good people. But Cole, you can't just... Call Linda. She's waiting. Marcus stared at him for a moment, then pulled out his phone. 10 minutes later, after a conversation Cole couldn't hear, Marcus hung up and nodded. Okay, it's done. The kids go to the Callahans tonight. Cole exhaled. He hadn't realized he'd been holding his breath, watching from Ashford, Montana, or somewhere else entirely. Drop a comment and let us know. Ray walked over. We good? We're good, Cole said. For now. Inside the sheriff's office, Jamie and Emma were still sitting together, still holding hands. Cole walked back in and knelt in front of them. Hey, he said, I've got good news. You're going to stay together, both of you. There's a really nice couple who live on a ranch just outside town. They've got horses and a dog and a big porch where you can sit and watch the stars. And they're going to take care of you. Jamie's eyes widened. Together? We don't have to split up? No. You stay together. For the first time since Cole had met him, Jamie smiled. It was small, fragile, but it was there. "Thank you," Jamie whispered. Cole put a hand on the boy's shoulder. "You did the hard part, kid. You were brave. You asked for help. That takes guts." Emma looked up at him. "Are you coming with us?" "Not tonight, but I'll come visit. I promise." And as Cole walked out of that sheriff's office, he knew it was a promise he'd keep. Because some promises aren't just words. They're iron. The Callahan Ranch sat 15 miles outside Ashford, tucked into a valley where the mountains sloped down into open grassland and the air smelled like sage and rain. Cole followed Marcus's sedan up the gravel driveway, his bike rumbling low, Ray and Della riding behind him. In the back seat of Marcus's car, Jamie and Emma sat quietly, faces pressed against the window, watching the horses grazing in the distance. Doc Callahan was waiting on the porch when they pulled up. He was older now, greyer, his shoulders still broad but his movements slower. His wife Linda stood beside him, a small woman with kind eyes and silver hair tied back in a bun. When the car doors opened, Linda walked down the steps and knelt in front of the kids. "Hi there," she said softly. "I'm Linda, and this is my husband Thomas, but everyone calls him Doc." Emma looked up at her brother. Jamie nodded, and Emma took a tentative step forward. "Are you scared?" Linda asked. Emma nodded. "That's okay. It's okay to be scared, but you don't have to be scared here. This is a safe place, and you and your brother are going to stay together. Always." Jamie's eyes filled with tears again, but this time they were different. Not fear, relief. Doc walked over to Cole and extended his hand. "Good to see you, Thornton." "You too, Doc. Linda told me what you did. Getting these kids out of there, that took guts." "I didn't do much, just made a phone call." "You did more than most would." Doc looked at Jamie and Emma. "They're gonna be okay here. We'll make sure of it." Marcus stepped out of the car with a folder full of paperwork. He and Linda walked inside to handle the official placement. Doc stayed on the porch with the kids, showing Emma the barn cat and telling Jamie about the horses. Cole watched from a distance, arms crossed, feeling something he couldn't quite name. Maybe it was satisfaction. Maybe it was something heavier. Ray leaned against his bike. "You think this sticks?" "What do you mean?" "Foster care. It's temporary, right? What happens when the system decides to move them again?" "They won't," Cole said. "Not if I can help it." Della raised an eyebrow. "You planning on adopting them yourself?" "No, but I'm planning on making sure they don't get lost in the shuffle." Marcus came back outside an hour later. "Paperwork's done. Kids are officially placed with the Callahans for the next 60 days, while the state figures out a permanent solution. Father's being arraigned tomorrow, prosecutors going for the maximum." "And the mother?" Cole asked. "Still no contact. We've got an open case, but honestly, she's probably halfway across the country by now. Some people run and don't look back." Cole's jaw tightened. "So these kids are alone?" "Not anymore," Marcus said. "They've got Doc and Linda. And apparently, they've got you." Cole didn't respond. He looked at Jamie, who was sitting on the porch steps now, petting the barn cat while Emma giggled beside him. It was the first time he'd heard her laugh. "What happens at the arraignment?" Cole asked. "Standard procedure. Judge will hear the charges, set bail if applicable, schedule a trial date." "I want to be there." Marcus frowned. "Why?" "Because I want to look him in the eye." "Cole, I'm going." Marcus sighed. "Fine. It's at 9 tomorrow morning, Ashford County Courthouse." Cole nodded. "I'll be there." That night, Cole didn't ride back to his motel. He stayed on the Callahan Ranch, sleeping in a guest room Doc offered him. He couldn't explain why he stayed. Maybe it was because he wanted to make sure the kids were okay. Maybe it was because he didn't trust the system to hold. Or maybe it was because, for the first time in years, he felt like he was exactly where he was supposed to be. At 7 the next morning, Cole woke to the sound of Jamie's laughter outside. He walked to the window and saw the boy running through the grass, chasing the barn cat while Emma toddled after him. Linda stood on the porch, coffee in hand, watching with a smile. Doc knocked on the door. "You want breakfast?" "Yeah, thanks." They ate together at the kitchen table, eggs, bacon, toast. Jamie and Emma sat across from Cole, eating slowly, like they still weren't sure the food was real. "You sleep okay?" Cole asked. Jamie nodded. The bed was really soft. "Good." Emma looked up at him. "Are you leaving?" "Just for a little while. I've got something I need to do. But I'll be back." "Promise?" "Promise." At 8:30, Cole rode into town. The courthouse was a squat brick building on Main Street, flanked by 2 flagpoles and a dying oak tree. Marcus was waiting outside. "You sure about this?" Marcus asked. "I'm sure." They walked inside. The courtroom was small, wooden benches worn smooth by decades of use. A handful of people sat scattered throughout, a few reporters, a couple of deputies, a woman Cole assumed was the prosecutor, and at the front, in an orange jumpsuit and handcuffs, sat Jamie's father. Cole took a seat in the back. Marcus sat beside him. The judge entered and everyone stood. The arraignment began. The prosecutor read the charges: multiple counts of child endangerment, aggravated assault, unlawful imprisonment. The father's public defender entered a plea of not guilty. The judge set bail at $50,000 and scheduled a preliminary hearing for 2 weeks out. It was over in 15 minutes. As the father was being led out, he turned and looked back at the courtroom. His eyes scanned the room, and then they landed on Cole. For a moment, they locked eyes. The father's expression was hard, defiant. But Cole didn't blink. He just stared back, his face unreadable, his presence a silent reminder. "I'm not going anywhere." The father looked away first. Outside the courthouse, Marcus lit a cigarette. "Feel better?" "No," Cole said, "but I needed to see him." "Why?" "Because I wanted him to see me. I wanted him to know that someone's watching, that if he ever gets out, if he ever comes near those kids again, he won't get far." Marcus exhaled smoke. "You know you can't protect them forever, right?" "Maybe not," Cole said, "but I can protect them today and tomorrow and the day after that, and that's enough." He climbed on his bike and started the engine. Ray and Della were waiting at the diner down the street, and Cole still had a promise to keep, because some promises don't end when the danger passes. They're just beginning. 3 days after the arraignment, Cole was still in Ashford. He hadn't planned to stay. The memorial ride in Billings was long over, and the other bikers had returned to their lives, jobs, families, routines. Ray had left that morning, Della the day before. They'd both told Cole to take care of himself, to not get too wrapped up in something he couldn't control, but Cole couldn't leave, not yet. He spent his mornings at the Callahan Ranch, helping Doc mend fences and clear brush. He spent his afternoons in town, checking in with Marcus, making sure the case against Jamie's father was moving forward. And he spent his evenings on the porch, watching Jamie and Emma play in the yard, their laughter cutting through the stillness like light through fog. Linda noticed. She brought him coffee one morning and sat beside him on the porch steps. "You don't have to stay, you know," she said gently. "The kids are safe. Doc and I will take care of them." "I know." "So why are you still here?" Cole didn't answer right away. He watched Jamie chase the barn cat across the grass, Emma trailing behind him, giggling. Finally he said, "Because I made a promise." "To who?" "To myself. A long time ago." Linda waited, letting the silence stretch. She had that quality, the ability to listen without pushing. Cole took a breath. "I had a son once." Linda's expression didn't change, but something in her eyes softened. "His name was Ethan," Cole continued. "He was 8 when I left for my second tour in Iraq. I told him I'd be back before his 9th birthday. I promised him." He paused. "I kept that promise. I came home 3 weeks early, but when I got there, he was in the hospital. Leukemia. Advanced. The doctor said it had been months, but Sarah, my ex-wife, hadn't told me. She didn't want me distracted overseas." Linda's hand moved to his gently. "He died 2 weeks later," Cole said. "I was home. I was there. But I wasn't there when it mattered. I wasn't there when he got sick, when he was scared, when he needed me most. And I swore that if I ever had a chance to protect a kid again, I wouldn't walk away. I wouldn't leave them to the system, to the chaos, to the people who say they'll help but don't. I'd stay, however long it took." Linda squeezed his hand. "Cole, you couldn't have known. Doesn't matter. I wasn't there. And now you're here. For Jamie and Emma. That means something. Maybe. It does. To them, and to Doc and me. You didn't just save them. You gave them a chance to heal." Cole looked at her. "What happens when the 60 days are up? What happens if the system decides to move them somewhere else? Then we fight it. Doc and I are already talking to our lawyer about permanent placement. We want to adopt them, Cole. Both of them. Cole's chest tightened. You sure? We're sure. We've fostered 7 kids over the years. 3 of them we adopted. We know what we're getting into. And these kids? They're special. Jamie's strong. Emma's resilient. They've been through hell, but they're still here, still holding on. That takes courage. Yeah, it does. Linda stood. You've done your part. You don't have to carry this alone anymore. But Cole wasn't sure that was true. That evening, Marcus called. Got an update on the case. Talk to me. Father's lawyer is pushing for a plea deal. Reduced charges in exchange for a guilty plea. No jail time, just probation and mandatory counseling. Cole's grip tightened on the phone. You're kidding. I wish I was. Prosecutor's considering it. Says it'll save the kids from having to testify in court. Less trauma. That's bullshit. He beat those kids for months. He locked a 4-year-old in a bedroom, and you're telling me he might walk? It's not up to me, Cole. It's up to the prosecutor and the judge. When's the decision? Hearing's in 2 days. I'll let you know. Cole hung up and stared at the horizon. The sun was setting, painting the sky in shades of red and gold. Jamie and Emma were inside now, probably having dinner with Linda and Doc. Safe, for now. But for now wasn't good enough. Cole walked to his bike, pulled out his phone, and scrolled through his contacts. He found the number for a man he hadn't spoken to in 5 years. A defense attorney named Greg Larson, who owed him a favor from a long time ago. Larson answered on the second ring. Cole Thornton, this is a surprise. I need your help. What kind of help? The legal kind. There's a case in Ashford County, child abuse. The father's trying to plea down. I need to make sure that doesn't happen. You a party to the case? No, but I'm involved. How involved? Enough that I'm not letting this slide. There was a pause. Then Larson said, Send me the details. I'll look into it. Thanks, Greg. Don't thank me yet. If the prosecutor wants the deal, there's not much I can do, but I'll see what I can find. Cole hung up and sat on the porch, staring at the darkening sky. He thought about Ethan, about the promises he'd made and the ones he'd broken. And he thought about Jamie and Emma, 2 kids who'd been dealt the worst hand life could offer, but who were still fighting to survive. He wasn't going to let them down. Not this time. The courthouse was more crowded than Cole expected. He arrived 20 minutes early, Marcus beside him, and found the benches already filling with people, reporters, social workers, a few locals who'd heard about the case. At the front, the prosecutor sat at her table, flipping through a stack of papers. Across from her, Jamie's father sat in his orange jumpsuit, his public defender whispering in his ear. Cole took a seat in the back, his jaw tight, his hands resting on his knees. Marcus leaned over. You know you can't say anything in there, right? This isn't your case. I know. So why are you here? Because I want him to see me. I want him to know someone's watching. The judge entered, and everyone stood. The hearing began. The prosecutor spoke first, outlining the charges and the proposed plea agreement. Reduced charges, probation, mandatory counseling, no jail time. She argued that it would spare the children from the trauma of testifying, that it would allow them to move forward without reliving the abuse. Cole's fists clenched. The public defender stood next. He painted a sympathetic picture of his client, a man struggling with alcoholism, a man who'd lost his wife and his job, a man who'd made mistakes but was willing to change. He argued that incarceration would serve no purpose, that rehabilitation was the better path. Cole felt his blood boil. Then the judge asked if anyone else wished to speak. There was a long silence, and then, from the back of the room, a voice cut through the stillness. I do. Everyone turned. Cole stood. The judge frowned. And you are? Cole Thornton. I'm the one who found Jamie on the side of the road 3 days ago. The prosecutor stood. Your Honor, Mr. Thornton is not a party to this case. I know that, the judge said, but he's here, and he's asking to speak. I'll allow it. Briefly. Cole walked to the front of the room. He didn't look at the father. He looked at the judge. Your Honor, I'm not a lawyer. I'm not a social worker. I'm just someone who happened to be in the right place at the right time. But I saw what this man did to those kids. I saw the bruises. I saw the fear in their eyes. And I heard that little boy beg me to arrest his father. Cole's voice was steady, but there was steel in it. That prosecutor says this plea deal will spare the kids trauma, but you know what's more traumatic? Knowing that the man who hurt you, who terrorized you, who locked you in a room and beat you until you were too scared to cry, knowing that man walked away with nothing but a slap on the wrist, that's trauma. That's the message you're sending if you accept this deal. That what he did doesn't matter, that those kids don't matter. The courtroom was silent. Cole continued. Those kids are safe now. They're with good people who care about them, but they're watching. And they're going to remember this. They're going to remember whether justice was served or whether it was traded away for convenience. The judge leaned back in her chair. Anything else, Mr. Thornton? Just one thing. I'm not going anywhere. I'll be here for every hearing, every motion, every step of this case. And if this man ever comes near those kids again, he'll have to go through me first. Cole turned and walked back to his seat. The father's eyes followed him, but Cole didn't look back. The judge took a long moment, then looked at the prosecutor. I'm denying the plea agreement. The courtroom stirred. These charges are serious, the judge continued, and while I appreciate the prosecutor's concern for the children, I don't believe a plea deal serves the interest of justice in this case. We'll proceed to trial. Bail is revoked. The defendant will remain in custody until trial. We're adjourned. The gavel came down. Cole exhaled. Marcus put a hand on his shoulder. You just pissed off a lot of people. Good. Outside, the prosecutor caught up with him. That was reckless, Mr. Thornton. Maybe, but it was necessary. You realize you may have just prolonged this process. The kids might have to testify now. Then I'll make sure they're ready, but they deserve to see him held accountable, not let off easy. The prosecutor studied him for a moment, then nodded. I hope you're right. Cole climbed on his bike and started the engine. As he rode back to the Callahan ranch, he thought about Ethan, about the promises he'd made and the ones he'd kept. And he thought about Jamie and Emma, two kids who were finally getting a chance at something better. And for the first time in a long time, Cole felt like he was on the right side of a fight. If this story's resonating with you, hit that like button and let me know in the comments. The trial took place 6 weeks later. Cole was there every day, sitting in the back row, arms crossed, watching. Jamie and Emma didn't have to testify. Marcus and the prosecutor worked out an arrangement where medical reports and photographic evidence were submitted instead. But the case was solid. The bruises, the locked bedroom, the testimony of neighbors who'd heard shouting and crying for months but never called the police. The jury deliberated for 4 hours. When they came back, the verdict was guilty on all counts. The father was sentenced to 8 years in state prison. No parole eligibility for 5. Cole watched as the man was led out of the courtroom in handcuffs. The father looked back one last time, his eyes landing on Cole, but this time there was no defiance, just resignation. Outside the courthouse, Marcus lit a cigarette. You did it. We did it. No, you did it. You made sure those kids had a voice when no one else would. Cole looked at the mountains in the distance. What happens now? Doc and Linda filed for adoption 2 weeks ago. With the father's rights terminated, it should go through without issue. The kids will be theirs by Christmas. Cole nodded. Good. You gonna stick around? For a while. And then? Then I ride, like I always do. Marcus smiled. You're a good man, Thornton, even if you don't believe it. Cole didn't respond. He just climbed on his bike and rode back to the ranch. When he arrived, Jamie and Emma were playing in the yard. Jamie saw him first and came running. Cole, you're back. I'm back. Did you see my dad? Cole hesitated, then nodded. Yeah, buddy, I saw him. Is he going away? Yeah, for a long time. Jamie's face was serious. Good. Emma ran over and threw her arms around Cole's leg. Are you staying? Cole knelt and looked at both of them. Not forever. But I'll come visit, I promise. You always keep your promises, Jamie said. Cole's chest tightened. I try. Linda called them in for dinner and the kids ran inside. Doc walked over to Cole and extended his hand. Thank you, Doc said, for everything. You're the ones taking them in. I just made a phone call. You did more than that. You gave them hope, And that's worth more than you know. Cole shook his hand. Take care of them. We will. You have my word. That night, Cole sat on the porch one last time, watching the stars come out. Jamie came outside and sat beside him. Cole? Yeah? Why did you stop that day on the highway? Why didn't you just keep riding? Cole thought about it for a long moment. Then he said, because I made a promise a long time ago. To always stop. To always help. Even when it's hard. Did you keep your promise? Cole looked at the boy. I did. And I always will. Jamie smiled. I'm glad you stopped. Me too, kid. The next morning, Cole packed his saddlebags, said his goodbyes, and rode out of Ashford. He didn't look back, but he carried the memory with him of a 6-year-old boy on a gravel shoulder waving his arms for help, and of the moment he decided to stop. Because some promises aren't made in words, they're made in action, and they last a lifetime. Thank you so much for watching this story unfold. If it moved you, please subscribe to the channel and hit that notification bell, because every story we tell here matters, and yours does too.